Hi, hello everyone. Good evening and welcome back to this series called as Economy Booster Sessions for just 10 minutes daily. So this is Nisha Anujumuthi, your educated on Academy, an expert in Indian economy, current affairs and MCQs. And now in today's class, if you see, we have another interesting topic which is none other than International Migration Report 2020. So this is a class which happens on a daily basis from 8 p.m. to 8:10 p.m. just for 10 minutes. So this is a topic today guys which talks about the so-called important factor which deals with migration. I can tell you. We know that in the COVID-19 pandemic, when it started last year, we could see a load of news in the context of migration within the country and also outside the country. So now taking into consideration all those, let's quickly have a look into the so-called International Migration Report of 2020 in detail. So before going to the class, you can just click on the description box links which will take you to my Academy profile where you can find the schedules of my free class and plus class. Every day 6 to 7 you have the top 1000 MCQ CD free class, and also you have the current plus classes going on, NCERT batch courses and also current affairs weekend batch courses. So now to be a part of free or plus class and also to be a part of Unacademy Compact which happens every Sunday 11 a.m. the India's largest scholarship test series, use my code NISHA IAS Live. Come and attend the live classes to become IAS officers with me, and that is NISHA IAS Live. Just keep it in mind, okay? So now back to the topic of discussion guys. It talks about the International Migration Report. And this international, or let's say the World Migration Report, is one such important topic to be considered. And if you see, it was released by the IOM. What is IOM? International Organization for Migration. And now, this is very important with regard to country India, because we rank number 1 with regard to migration. That is indeed an amazing thing which we should know. So now if you see, the key findings based on the International Migration Report 2020 is our country India, being an emerging and a developing economy, we account for the highest share with 17.5 million Indians living outside our country India. And thus I can tell you, even our country India, we are one of the leading recipients of all the remittances. If you see few reports based on the year 2018 and 2020, around billions and millions of rupees we have received in dollar terms via remittances guys from the people who are living outside India. And thus this remittances which we the Indians used to receive continuously, it has increased between the year 2005 to 2020, which means that the number of people who opt for working or studying in other countries have increased over the years, mostly the working professionals. Clear? And that is why the remittances are quite high for us. So in that particular perspective, we are doing great. So this kind of report called as International Migration Report is indeed very important with regard to country India, because we occupy number 1 position with regard to migration. And what about the top migrant corridors for we Indians? Basically, if you see, we migrate to the Middle East countries. One is UAE, then US and Saudi Arabia. And mostly if you see from our country India, the south part, especially the Kerala, the state of Kerala, you can see majority of the Keralites working in the UAE countries over there. So that is also one particular reason. And thus, talking about the migrants entering India, the highest number of migrants who enter India, they come from our neighbor, that is Bangladesh. Now, let's have a quick look into the global scenario. So this is the case of our country India based on the International Migration Report 2020. Globally, if you see again, compared to the 2000 Global Migration Report, again, the number of international migrants, it has just doubled as per the current 2020 report. From 150 million, it has become 272 million. And our country India is having 17.5 million, right? Followed by second place is Mexico and third is China. So compared to every other country, we are doing great with regard to the International Migration Report. And thus the people who are migrating, okay, they are not any highly paid working professionals. Rather, roughly I can tell you 2/3 or let's say majority of international migrants, they are labor migrants. That is also another important point to be noted with regard to the findings of this particular International Migration Report 2020. Talking about the top remittance issue, I can say the US or America was a top remittance issuer, and it was at $68 billion. And the second position was occupied by UAE with $44.4 billion and Saudi Arabia, which is 36.1 million. And which are the top destinations for international migrants, guys? If you see, the so-called top destinations for international migrants is the US. Whereas if you see the data on 2019 and all, around 50.7 million international migrants were there. And after US, if you see countries like Germany, then Saudi Arabia and Russian Federation, UK, these are the countries that is the so-called top destinations for the international migrants. These are the global scenario findings with regard to the so-called International Migration Report that we are discussing. Now, talking about the gender perspective, do you think more of males or females migrate? Indeed, both the genders do migrate. Okay. Out of that, if you see the proportion of female international migrants, it has just changed only marginally between two reports from 47.5 in 2000 to 47.9. That's it. Which means that still a lot more has to be done with regard to the female perspective. When you connect migration with the so-called gender perspective, in that proportion, if you see, the number of female international migrants is less. Whereas the share of international migrants who were children, it has also decreased from 16 in the year 2000 to 13.9 currently. Now, let's quickly have a look into the region with the highest proportion of international migrants. It is Oceania. Whereas the country with the highest proportion of international migrants, again, it is UAE. The region is Oceania, whereas the country with the highest proportion is UAE. And more than half of all the international migrants, okay, let's say around 141 million of people, where do they live? They live either in Europe or in North America. These are the places where you can find half of the international migrants, I can tell you. And thus, as far as recent data are concerned, the total number of international migrants in 2019 is now estimated to be 270 million. And this is just a very small percentage of the entire globe or world's population, and to tell you. Take care. Because it is around, let's say, 3.5% compared to the vast majority of people that we have across the globe, which is 96.5%. And they are estimated to be residing in the country in which they were born. Remaining people, they keep migrating to other places. And the top three countries of origin of international migrants, one is India, second is Mexico, third is China. And you can just go through that because this may come for your prelims examination. Consider the following statements. They may ask you the ranking in the context of match the following as well. So you can just go through. Now, there should be some sort of reasons for migration, right? Simply nobody is going to migrate like that. One is economic condition, then ongoing conflicts and violence, impact of climate and weather disaster. Yeah, these are the few reasons. Mostly economic conditions, I should tell you, because with regard to earning better income, to have a better living standard for opportunities, people do keep migrating. And with regard to war, violence and all, yeah, that is also another reason. But mostly the first reason, that is the highest reason why people keep on migrating. Now, when you were studying about the International Migration Report, I told you it is released by the IOM, that is International Organization for Migration. So, let's quickly have a look into this so-called IOM in detail in just, 1 minute. Initially, the IOM was known as Provisional Intergovernmental Committee for the Movement of Migrants from Europe. And since 1951, you have this. And this was brought in as a result of the confusion, the chaos and displacement of the Western Europe following the Second World War. That is how the IOM was brought in. And they are leading intergovernmental organizations. Take care. And they work under the so-called mandate of UN. So which means that the so-called International Organization of Migration comes under the purview of UN. And that too in the field of migration, and works very closely with all the governmental, intergovernmental and non-governmental partners. And they have around 173 member states. Out of those 173, I can tell you 8 of the states or countries, they have an observer status. And thus the objective of international organization for migration is basically dedicated for promoting humanity and orderly migration for the benefit of the entire population or people of the entire globe, I should tell you. So they do that keeping all these things in mind by providing services and advice to the governments and migrants. So this is what you should know with regard to the International Migration Report 2020. So thank you so much, my young officers. I hope you really enjoyed this session. So stay tuned for more upcoming sessions, and also a new live class series by me at 9:30 p.m. is starting, guys, in the same YouTube channel. So without fail, make sure that you're enrolling for that. And now, to be a part of the Unacademy Plus platform, till July 30th, you have time, guys. One subscription to crack it all. Around 45% discount you're getting for the plus, for the GS as well as the optional combination. So make sure that you're going for all these offers by using the code Nisha IAS Live. Clear? You can just go through the details of my other classes. You can save a lot when you take the combo subscriptions, and the students can benefit a lot with regard to your preparation as well. So thank you. Don't forget to like, share and also put your valuable feedbacks in the comment box before leaving the class. Jai Hind.